All right. So I think we can only probably take one more, and I know that Chris has been waiting for a long time. So let's take Chris from Scotland.
Okay.
And Chris is going to be asking about.
Oh, I should probably. Yeah, sorry.
Yep. Chris, welcome to the show. You're going to be asking a little bit about discerning good versus bad information and how to become more skeptical.
Hello there. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm calling about, especially as it relates to coming from a religious or spiritual background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you come from a spiritual or religious background, Chris?
I do, but first of all, I'd just like to say that I'm a massive fan of you both and,
Yay.
this show.
Aw,
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you for calling in. I'm so happy you were able to.
You're more than welcome, and thank you. I suppose my question is about, there are so many pieces of information, or there are so many, things floating around on the internet, for example. How do you go about discerning what information is good information and what is, as they call it these days, fake news?
Right.
Chris, I'm really excited that you asked this question. This is one of those times when you actually do have an expert on the line.
Oh, God.
We went to college for this.
Yeah. I am going to make sure that I link the clip from a couple of weeks ago in the description for this call as well, because I think we went over similar things, but especially when it comes to people who are given, who have grown up in a religious or spiritual background or are living in a society that is very much kind of influenced by that. I think the focus should be the little red flags. And what I mean by that are when you read something, regardless of who you are, this happens to everybody, there is a little flag that gets raised in your brain. And you can feel it usually. It's usually emotional. And that flag, as you tune into it, is either, that seems weird. Oh, well, maybe it's true. Like, I don't know everything. So, okay, there's nothing blatantly ridiculous about it. So, okay. Or oh yes, that feels accurate. That seems right. Like, all of these little emotional flags that get put up are always markers to do more research. So what that looks like is when you see a headline on social media that is being shared around, those headlines are designed to evoke those emotions. Either, that seems wrong, I'm going to disagree with it, or that seems correct, I'm going to share it. And the best thing that you can do is super simple. It's just click into the article and read the whole thing. And then maybe see where they get their information from and read that. You don't need to have degrees in science or degrees in history or criminal law to have a pretty well-informed decision about the basics. If you're going to go into like constitutional law or, the history of your country as it relates to, religious politics or whatever, it is going to become a lot more important that you do that depth of research. But for the most stuff that you encounter day to day, in order to be one of the more informed people on the internet, all you have to do is read the thing and then click in and maybe read one or two other things about it, usually from different sources, because truth is an aggregate thing. That is my favorite quote ever. I need it tattooed on my body.
That's a really awesome quote.
Isn't it great? There is no one source that is going to give you the truth. And if you expect any source or any person or any publication to be printing the truth or to be telling you the truth, you're going to get misled eventually. They all try, or a lot of them try, but it's not possible to do. So all you need to worry about is when you have that emotional little trigger, when you see something, that seems correct, or that seems incorrect, or, oh, that made me feel weird, I don't know why exactly. That is a really good sign that you just need to do a little bit more reading from a couple different places, and then you'll have a more formed opinion. And most often, it's going to be a lot less solid than it would have been otherwise, right? I can share an article that says something that I agree with because of the headline and have a really strong opinion on that and be like, yes, this is absolutely correct. And then the second I do more research, I'm like, oh, actually, there are these other factors. And actually, I think this person misunderstood this quote. It becomes more fuzzy. And the fuzzier, and this sounds like the, what's it called? The fallacy where you think you're in the middle because things are...
I know what you're talking about. I don't... live chat, help us.
Help us out. The fallacy where you assume that the middle position is the correct position. It isn't always. But
that's very true.
It's tricky to get out of that as a skeptic because a lot of the time the assumption is, oh, well, if you don't believe either side, then you must be really smart. And not really, not all the time.
No, you could just have your head firmly planted up your butt.
But
that's very true. That is sometimes the case. Yeah,
exactly. And the only other thing I would say is, in the same way that you pay attention to that little emotional flag as a way to get into more research, I would also say that if you start feeling that emotion diffused a little bit or just fuzzied, that's a good sign that you're getting more information and that information is better, because very rarely are you 100% correct about anything. Very rarely is anybody else.
There's always nuance.
That's certainly true. I totally agree with what you said about the articles intending to evoke, the headlines having the intention of evoking an emotional response, or, for example, I totally agree with it, or that's a load of rubbish, I'm going to reply. Mm-hmm. And it's something I talk to my brother-in-law quite often about. It's really just meant to draw you in and get clicks and all that stuff.
Yep. And it's really insidious because a lot of religious or spiritual communities use that as well. And they're taught that it's a good thing. So when somebody from what I used to be, this kind of very evangelical spiritual Christian, felt that little emotional trigger, they wouldn't just say, oh, that seems right to me. They would think, and that means that God is telling me that this is right. And so all of a sudden, it becomes not just a personal thing, but a spiritual thing and a connection with God. And getting out of that habit and realizing that those triggers are just in you based on what you have absorbed so far and what you have to absorb in the future is really difficult. And it can really make it difficult for people from religious backgrounds to get to that point because they've been told that it's good that they feel those things and they should listen to them. So that's where that tricky bit kind of comes into play.
Yeah, I go ahead, Chris.
Oh, on you go. Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. These things are seen as divine revelation or divine insight, Mm-hmm. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. Actually, I don't want to go to...
Yeah, we're at the end of the show. We're not going to get the chance, unfortunately.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. That's okay.
But while there are some things I would like to add, none of them add up to what you gave as a package, V, so I kind of just want to go with V's answer on this one.
Well, Chris, thank you for calling in. Okay. And please do call back. We would love to talk to you again.
Yeah, it was the end of the episode. But thank you.
Yeah. It was awesome chatting to you, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening.
And thank you for understanding. When it's the end of the episode and we got to wrap up, some people are like, oh, do they take it personally?
Actually, I feel like we've had a pretty good run of people who are just like, oh, yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. It's almost like we're creating an environment that lends itself to that.